Do you remember the days when games were rated on playability as opposed to graphics? Well, I sure as hell do, and this is a good example of a console that has good games but the graphics aren't particularly very good. This is one of the first 3D consoles. You could play 3D on the Sega Mega Drive and the SNES, but it was sort of pseudo 3D. So this is very low poly, but it still looks good because the textures are always really nice. It just looks great. But of course, earlier I was mentioning how graphics aren't everything, and this has a fantastic library of games that are good because, you know, they're playable. They're fun, unlike newer consoles where you buy, you know, a nice shiny game that looks really nice. For example, Haze on the PS3. That looked really good, but playable? No. So let's have a look at the console itself. On the front, we have 2 controller ports and 2 memory card slots. Nice dust trays for them. I'll show you a memory card later. On the top of the console, we have a fantastic PlayStation logo, well designed, looks really nice. An eject button and on and off switch, as well as a reset. The fantastic thing about the eject button here, if you have a power cut, how are you going to get the disc out of your Xbox? You can't. So, you know, with this one you just press this button, it's an inbuilt mechanism, no power required. You can just get your game out, no problem. On the back of the console, we have some ports. Now, here's a figure of 8 power supply. So the adapter for this console is inbuilt, which means you only need one lead, no hefty transformer to carry around. There's the AV out, which can be found on the PlayStation 1, 2 and 3. It's a good design, it still lasts today. Serial, I don't know what that does, but the parallel port here, I've had cheat cartridges that plug into there. I do have one somewhere, but I don't have it to hand, so I can't show you what it looks like. And on the side here we have this fantastic ridge style sort of effect. It looks really nice. The overall console, I think, it looks like it should be blasting off into space or something. It's brilliant, and a lot of consoles actually did this effect on the side, because as you can see here, my Game Boy original, here are the ridges. It's a good design. Where has it gone? We should bring it back. Now, the controller for the PlayStation, I have one here. Really nice design. Everything's where it should be. The thumbsticks, I mean, your fingers just fall into place. Square, triangle. You know, you've got your 2 fingers on the shoulder buttons there. It's just so easy. This design has lasted. It hasn't been replaced. I mean, let's take a look at the PlayStation 2 controller, which I have here. And I've wrapped it up for some stupid reason, but I'll unwrap it now. So, no different at all. I mean, everything's the same. They didn't change it because they knew it worked. This one's a little bit heavier than PlayStation 1. I think that's because they upgraded the DualShock. But aside from that, it's the same. And let's have a look at the PlayStation 3 controller. Oh look, exactly the same. It's a lasting design. Even on the Xbox controller, they had to change the black and white buttons, and they've only had 2 consoles. So that just goes to show. So, what kind of games do you get with the PlayStation 1? Well, you've seen my review of Star Trek Invasion. It's not a fantastic game, but you know, it's good. But you do get a fantastic library behind you, such as Time Crisis, one of my favourites if you have a light gun. Abe's Odyssey, brilliant series. £8 second hand still, so sought after. And here's my favourite game of all time, Metal Gear Solid. Brilliant game. So, you know, there's a lot of games to back up the PlayStation library, and it's just brilliant. There's still a cult following for this today. A lot of people went off the first 3D consoles because it wasn't quite 2D, it wasn't quite 3D, but some of the games are fantastic. Sure, they weren't completely ironed out yet, the playability hadn't been perfected by then, but you know, this is the start, and there are some really good games on it today. There is another feature of the PlayStation that comes absolutely free with the console. Originally this console was this colour, but over time it changed to this colour. No consoles these days allow you to change the colour of your console without spending money, and this was achieved for free. All I had to do was leave it in the sun and it turned to a nice beige, whereas before it was a nice grey. So, you know, you get that for free. These days you'll have to pay for a decal, but why would you want to do that? The last thing I want to show you is the memory card for the PlayStation. This is the first time I remember being able to save games aside from on the SNES with, I think it was the memory for that on the cartridges, I can't remember. But this meant you could take this, put it in here, save your game, take it away with you to your friend's house, and play your save game there. I mean, it's brilliant design, little unit, it's only about a megabyte, but I think they measured it in blocks. It really worked quite well. The first time I ever needed save games really was when I had Crash Bandicoot 2, which is one of the best games I've ever owned. Unfortunately, since then, someone used it as a coaster and it no longer works. Never leave your games out. That's today's story.